Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Unleashed. I'm your host, Cody Hauk, and today is going to be a special interview. I have a very special guest for you guys today, and kind of a crazy full circle moment. Tim and I have been connected for, since I started my recovery journey. Tim and I had gotten connected, and Tim was hosting a podcast dedicated to addiction recovery and walking alongside God at that time. And he invited me to be on his show, and he was the first podcast that I was ever a guest on. So it is a true honor to have him in this full circle moment and have Tim guest on my podcast today. Everybody, I welcome to the show Tim Holloway, Men of Influence. Tim, welcome, my brother.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. I appreciate it, and super neat that we came full circle. And I still remember that interview. I think it was probably one of my third or fourth interviews, and super neat, man. And thank you for this opportunity, brother. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you're here today, man, because like I said, everybody knows I let God take the wheel in these conversations and steer him where it wants it to go. And you and I have had, some similarities in our journey, a lot of similarities in our mission. And I know today's conversation is going to steer towards addiction recovery, mindset, things I'm very passionate about and things I know you are very passionate about. But why don't we hear the story of Tim? Who is Tim? Where have you come from, and why are you passionate about it?
Yes. Man, who am I? I always go back to God declaring that we are made in his image and that we are his sons. And so, that's the identity that I've accepted today. When I hear that, I'm like, I'm made in God's image, and I am I'm an offspring of God. So, but that wasn't all. I didn't always believe the case. And so that goes back into, some of my past, man. And my first 10 years of life were really, really traumatic. I'll share kind of briefly, but the environment that I came into was like chaos, man. My mom was already addicted to drugs before I was born. My sister, her daughter was murdered. My brother was tortured, and her boyfriend was sent to prison. And she bounces to all of these different men that are resemble her pain and her trauma. And so I'm in this whirlwind of traumatic pain that she's experiencing. And needless to say, that led to 10 years of very traumatic experiences, a lot of pain. Both her parents addicted to heroin and to meth, strange combination, but they loved them both. And our house was a squatter house. There were homeless people, drug addicts everywhere. Backyard, like the rooms were rented out for prostitution. Like there's just a whole very dark period of my life until someone was murdered on our property. Led to a full police investigation. It led to the police calling CPS, and then that led to us being taken away by the government, all of us brothers and sisters, and us being distributed to all the different family members. So basically, we went from brothers and sisters all connected together to everybody, to each different family member. So that was the first 10 years of my life. And it didn't take me long to figure out that there was a lot of things that were seriously wrong with me. We didn't have a lot of labels that we have now, but I had a lot of paranoid episodes. I had a lot of stress. I had a lot of night terrors. I had a lot of panic that came upon me as very, very young as I can remember. And so I had a lot of issues, brother. And so drugs became an outlet for me in my teenage years to find some way to cope with what I was going through. I'm sure you could relate to some of that.
Yeah, man. I mean, totally different backstories to start our lives, right? I didn't deal with
Mhm.
any of that. I grew up in a, middle class family, very healthy environment. Parents worked their tails off, loved us to death. Where my coping with drug addiction came in was we grew up in a very rural, um,
Yeah.
minority heavy, poverty stricken town. We didn't fit that mold.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the bullying is what, you and I talked about that
Oh,
years ago. The
yeah.
bullying
Yeah.
is what got me. I didn't fit in with anybody. So when the
Yeah.
opportunity to use drugs came up, it was, oh, I'll be cool with these guys if I get into that with them.
Yeah.
That's where my addiction started. But man, I didn't know that was the beginning of your life and what you would come through and what led up to that. So
Yeah, yeah. Very troublesome beginning. I'd like to say that it got better, sometime after that, but it really didn't, man. And I was given to my grandmother, and to just fast forward a couple years, right before I turned 13, I found her dead, and it destroyed my world, man, because it was the only person who um, that loved and cared for me, and pulled me out of the environment, and gave me somehow a sense of stability and stuff like that. I was in tough love counseling. I was in Christian school, and she was doing whatever she could to help bring me through that situation. And then when she was gone, it was like I just hit the streets, man. At
mm,
13 years old, I hit the streets. I moved in with a 35-year-old, and we were cooking dope and, acting a fool, man, for years and years. So it just led me into a prolonged season of pain. What turned the tables for me was overdosing, and it was really a wake up call for me. I had multiple different moments, like panic attacks and anxiety stuff. And, inside of meth, you get to a paranoid state pretty quick. And I'll explain like maybe three very small instances to show people like how far it gets you out there. But you'll be running for something all day long, and there's nobody there. Okay. And so what that looks like is from the start of the morning to the night, and even on throughout the night, there is somebody chasing you. Now, in my instance, it was the police. They were out to get me, and they were watching me and all of these different things. And so it led from if I was on foot, I was running. If I was on wheels, I was riding. If I was in a car, we were jamming. Like, it didn't matter which source it was. It led to prolonged days of very paranoid schizophrenia. Uh, some of those bad points were holding on to a pole, thinking that gravity was going to stop and I was going to be sucked up. So I'm just like holding on for dear life. Um, Bottom of the bathroom floor, crying because of the anxiety and the often hearing voices and things like that. So I was in a very bad place. So when I overdosed, it was a wake up call, brother. Like, something's got to change, because
yeah,
the existence that I was in, it wasn't the fun state that people talk about, or how drug addiction usually starts, where meth gave me the ability to have a clean house or have things done. I was far progressed to where, I'm digging through vacuum bags from the diamond store looking for diamonds all night, like just crazy stuff.
yeah, yeah. Right where I was when I hit that bottom too, man. So
Yeah, it's like, go ahead.
let me ask you this, Tim. You know, you and I were in that similar state, and I think the turning point for us was very similar. Throughout your journey, those struggles, those atrocious things that you've had to overcome through your childhood, the loss of a sibling, abused brother, parents like that, your grandma passing away and you finding her. Where was your relationship with God in all of that?
Yeah, so I think it was the seeds were planted in me, and that is to say that I had a belief to kind of fall back on. And I think, during the times where my grandma would take me for the weekend and we would go to church and being involved in Christian school and the counseling, and it seemed like everybody was planting seeds during that time, and
Mm,
everybody around me was planting some sort of positive seeds. So I look at the outcome of the work that those people put in, whether it was the Christian counselor, the Christian school, my grandmother, all of these different things that I guess I knew who to call on
mm,
when shit hit the fan,
mm,
And so that was my thing. So when I overdosed, it seemed like God was giving me a wake up call. Conversations begin to happen with Him. The rest of the day, I sat my ass on this hammock and I didn't move like all day. I'm just like I'm like I seen a ghost, bro. I'm not leaving from the spot. And there was one time that I actually got up to move, and then my heart started just pop, 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 I just started thumping. So I just sat back down, and conversation began to open up with God. And during that time was a cry for help and utter disgust with the way my life had gone. So I believe that day, those seeds that all of those people planted, they bursted open, and something happened uh, that I can't explain. And what happened, what I believe happened, was a new desires begin to spring up, and they started challenging the other desires that I had. So I had this desire to uh, pray to God. I had this desire to connect with Him. I even had the desire to go to church, which within a month's time, I found the church. So all these new desires are propping up within me, and it caused a lot of struggle because I couldn't live the way I was living anymore. Um, each time I would give in to drugs, um, there would come a overwhelming sense of that I was created for more and that I was better than this.
mm,
And so I just couldn't do the things that I used to do with the same mindset. I had the mindset before that live it up, man. Eat, drink, be merry. I didn't say no
yeah,
to nothing. I didn't say no to nothing. Like, you want to do it? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I didn't say no to
yeah.
nothing. And all of a sudden I found an inner no on the inside. Even though I had all of this outward uh, influence on me, there was an inner no. So there was massive conflict in my life.
So from the time of the overdose attempt
Mhm.
to sobriety, what was that window and what was it that finally switched with you that said, I'm done with this shit?
Yeah. So I feel like God showed me between like two scenarios. So the one scenario, I found myself at the dope house. I didn't mean to get there or to be there. A buddy of mine said, return my bike over there. It didn't dawn on my head where I was, it just didn't enter. And so, I drop off the bike, knock on the door to let them know the bike's outside. And there, I found myself in a circle in the drug house, and the pipe is coming towards me, and I'm reaching out to God, and I'm I'm like, I don't know how I got here, but Lord, please help me. And I literally put my hands out like this as the pipe's coming away for like divine assistance. It's all I know like to do. And God came through mightily that day by giving me the gumption and the power to say no,
Mm,
pass the pipe to the right and walk out and say, I'll see you guys later, and walk away. And so I had that one scenario. And then 2 weeks later, I got connected with my mentor, which brought me up into the skinhead gang that I was involved in. And it was my sister's boyfriend, and she was having a baby. So I went back to my environment and I gave in, and I was high for a week, and I left there and came to my senses, and I was able to process both of these scenarios to where it was I can have access to God's strength. I also can have access to wisdom that doesn't put myself in the environment, in the positions that I was in before. So those two experiences, very first off, within like 45 days, solidified to me which path I wanted to take. So I cut off all the acquaintances and everybody that was involved with my old life, and just started fresh, man.
And been sober since.
Yep.
How long are we talking now?
So that is sober from drugs. I had to go another round with alcohol a little bit later in my life. I must confess. But I did get the victory, and I got stable, and I got on the right foot. That really changed the trajectory of my life. And later on in life, I had to go another round with some stuff that I didn't deal with. And I've been on that journey for 5.5 years. And it's been since I laid down alcohol, it's been quite a journey of growth, man.
I love hearing that. And for you guys listening, I want to point out something very important here, because when I was involved in ministry and in discipleship in my old church, it was something we used to talk about quite a bit. Is sanctification is a process.
It is, yeah.
And when you turn your life over to God, everything's just not going to disappear at once.
Sure.
He's going to start to prune things from your life a bit at a time. And it's going to start in many cases with those things that are separating you from him the most.
Yeah, sure.
And then he's going to work his way through your life as long as you continue to give him permission to do it.
Yeah. And I feel like with that conversation, there are different things, and we are on a progression of healing, and God is taking us through this journey. And there was a point in my life where I can identify that I wasn't willing to go there with God. And that obviously meant that I had to go maybe get a couple more hard knocks or something. And I look at it as is not particularly God's will that I take that path, but on either rate, it doesn't matter, in the sense of God has this ability and desire to bring us to the place where we begin to deal with our heart issues, and so we can progress on this journey of healing with him. And sometimes that doesn't look like a straight line, and sometimes that is a little bumpy, and that was the case for me. I attribute that to maybe being a little thick-headed.
A lot of that's a common theme with a lot of us, right? We always think that we know what's better for us than God does.
Sure. And I look at it as like, well, he would have loved for me to be at that place where I can deal with that. But what I've seen with the way God has worked in my life is periods and moments where I'm able to identify and release. I'm able to, he's able to bring the thing to the surface, whether it's traumatic experience, whether it's pain, bitterness, unforgiveness, whatever it is. We can't really handle this all at once. I literally think that we would probably snap under the weight of some of these things. And so I see God at different moments just dealing with certain things. And I had multiple release moments in my 30s to where these things came to the surface, and they were quite painful. And they led to a breaking down of mourning, of wailing, however you want to say it, and it getting released. So whatever is there is identified, it's acknowledged, and it's released. So it's a good journey. It's a good journey.
But that's the word right there, man. It's a journey, and it really never ends, right? When we go through recovery, one of our final steps is that we have to take a daily inventory and address those issues daily, because we can separate ourselves from God and our sobriety and our walk every day.
Sure.
It's that analogy. It's that analogy of the airplane that can get 1 degree off course, and that's fine for a mile. But 200 miles down the flight, now you're way the hell off course, and instead of landing in New York, you might land in Miami.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things that I attribute this path that I'm on today is well, there's quite a few people, but one of them is this old timer that I met in AA. At that time, NA was a little bit different than AA. NA was more court ordered stuff, and everybody was still using it. And it was just it was a weird environment. So I went to AA because there was a lot of people that had 50 years, and and so a guy took me under his wing and began to mentor me and allowed me to unburden myself. Unburden, to get some things off of my chest that were weighing me down, and walking through that without judgment, and then walking through that in a sense of well, what are you going to do now? What kind of maybe restitution are you going to make now with your life? And so yeah, I owe that period of life of getting on the right track to probably like 3 different male mentors that really invested in me. One of them was a cop, surprisingly. So at 17, he took me into his house, ex-cop, which my dad spent most of his life in prison, and my parents were every time the cops came in, it was good things happen. I didn't have this very good view of the cops, right? And so I have this cop invite me to Jack in the Box to have lunch with him. He's a Christian guy, and he's overcome addiction and all that stuff. And he starts investing in me and spending time with me. And then he's like, man, why don't I just get you off the streets? Why don't you just come live with me? He took me into his home for 3 years. I was mentored by this guy that was amazing, man, who had a relationship with God, had a beautiful family, had a nice job, house on the hill, had cars. Like it was a culture shock to experience that, because I ain't never seen a role model or a man like that in my life prior to that. It just was not reality. I mean, they gangsters, drug addicts, criminals, slap women. Like it was a culture shock, to say the least.
The power of mentorship is strong, man. I mean, that's why in any recovery program that sponsors are a thing. Right? You had that man come in your life and show you that there's success to be had outside of the streets.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, brother, is it seems like whatever stage I'm in, God provides the man to mentor. It really does. So during that time, there was a man to mentor. He became, those 3 years were just so, he was like such a father figure to me. Rest in peace. But I see the different men that God brought into my life during different moments. And it's kind of like a hero's journey, brother, where we meet these different people along the way, and they pull us up to another level. Yep. And my life has been a series of powerful mentors who pulled me up to the next realm. I hope to be able to do that on the way on this path to other people too. So,
I love you sharing that. And you guys take note of that right there, because my journey's been the same, whether it be through addiction, through the reparation, and now, the amazing marriage that I have today, and the different people that have poured into me through the stages of my marriage, now developing multiple businesses the same way. You and I are connected to a lot of the same people now. I just saw my boy Eagle Star commenting on some of your stuff here this morning, and we run in some of the same circles now, but it's always looking ahead, and there's always more to grow in someone that's where you're looking to go. And God puts those people in front of you to reach back and take your hand and say, come on, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what's neat about that, brother, is there's a sense of surrender in that. And it's a surrender to the fact that, like, let me just walk the path that I know and the journey that I'm on, knowing that the next opportunity will present itself, and the next person who has, I wouldn't say the key, but has the ingredients that you need. This could be in the form of partnerships, or it could be in the form of mentorship or whatever. And just not chomping at the bit about it, not trying, who's it that I need to connect with? Who's that I need to mentor? It's like, if we stop and surrender to the process, we will notice, and then we'll have these divine connections, and we'll be like, that is the person. And let me tell you from experience, if we don't do that, we start connecting ourselves to lower level versions of this person, right? Whether it's a partner or a mentor or whatever, and we'll go out and on the hunt and trying to find the next coach or the next whatever, and we'll waste a lot of time. And what I've noticed in my life is God sends that person when we're at a state of peace and the rest. When the student is ready, the master appears.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So let's pivot a little bit, man.
Okay. Okay.
We know Tim. We know Tim sober today, and Tim is a man of faith, and Tim freaking loves helping people do more, be more, and achieve more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, I sure do.
Let's talk about men of influence, and let's talk about the businessman, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that I've noticed is as you get into the achievement crowd, and that is more self-help and personal development, and men who are ambitious, who are going somewhere, and being a part of that crowd, and then asking yourself, what is the greatest need that my tribe has? And by tribe, I mean ambitious men who are trying to achieve something. And it came to me that being healed at a heart level, and dealing with all of our limiting beliefs and some of these core issues that are in the heart, that those produce the best men that stand in power. So instead of striving for wealth for some egotistical purpose to prove to the world that, look at me, look at what I have done, that we can heal some of those things, so the person can stand in a place of power in his achievement, and the success that he has is not from a place of ego. It's from a place of power, in the sense that he already knows who he is. He already knows what he has. And he already knows, like, that in the faith aspect, he already knows that he's a son of God, and he already knows that he's created in the image of God. So leading from that place of power is, I think, what ultimately men need. Because being around in the circle, would notice that there's a lot of men that are making a lot of money, but they're sacrificing. They're sacrificing their marriage, they're sacrificing their body, they're sacrificing themselves on this altar of achieving some sort of greatness, so they can have the world say how great they are.
Yep.
And so getting centered back into maybe a heart consciousness was the greatest need that I've seen in my tribe. And I'm like, if I can get men to begin to heal and start living from a place of power, then how more successful are they going to be if they're not burning down their marriage, if they're not forsaking their kids? Like how more powerful? So that
Mm.
led to the men of influence. It led to two separate kind of entities of that. One is men who have found their voice, like getting them to launch a podcast and showing them how to build their tribe on social media. And then those who need the heart healing journey to get centered, to get started out on the right foot. We have a group that's connected to that. So it's all centered about men who are ambitious and want to create influence in their lives, either one way or the other. We get you healed and whole so you can begin to operate in place of power, or we get you to spread your message through podcasting and stuff like that. So that's my mission in a nutshell.
I love that right there, man, because and I love that you do have both sides of it, because I think that it takes that healing and knowing your identity and who you are and what you stand for and the things in life that truly matter before you can go get the rest.
Yeah. I see a little bit of dealing with kind of root issues. And, the men doesn't have to come from the same background that I do. But just the achievement, ambitious factor alone, unchecked, without the heart-centered motivation, it can be very ugly, and it can be used as to utilize people as mere tools and resources to make me great. There's a lot of things that can come with that. So, getting on the healing journey, getting the heart healed, getting on the right foot, and then when you go into now. I'm a wholehearted person stepping into my business. Now I'm a wholehearted person stepping into my marriage. That I'm not checking off a box as some sort of achievement or trophy or award or whatever, and I'm just showing up as the best version of myself inside of those different areas of my life. Now I can have pure motives. I can have great intentions, and I can have like positive energy flowing through me into those areas where before, men are very clogged because of unchecked ambition and pure motives and some of these other things.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And I think you're connected to my guy, Coach Nicky T, as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick loves to say, get your focus off the income and focus on the impact.
Yeah.
And I think with a mindset like that keeps you clean.
Yep. That's what it's about. Because like if you're just wanting to bring somebody to the level of healing and power that you are now, there is a lot of there's a lot of good vibes in that. There's a lot of good positive energy that's being spent in that. And, we show up and we want to solve problems and we want to serve other people. And not that I become great, that I help in an instrument and tool to make them great. There's just a lot of good positivity and a lot of vibes in that, man. That's, I feel like, I don't know if good things can be stopped from happening to that person. I don't think they can stop the good things that are going to flow to them.
Man, you start living in that kind of state, and it's almost like you become, I don't want to say invincible, because obviously shit can always happen.
Sure.
But when things start to happen that would normally derail you in the past, you just sit back and laugh at it.
Yeah.
And then you just tell the devil to fuck off. You can't stop me.
Come on now.
Sometimes
I'd be like, is that all you got, man? Like, gosh, coming from my my background and all that stuff, like, really? That's about half what my stepdad gave me. Come on, man. Is that all you got?
There's only been one time, man, since I started my walk with, a couple times, but I think the biggest time was I listened to this sermon series. It was called Dangerous Prayers. Craig Rochelle over at Life Church did it about a decade ago. and it was search me, break me, send me.
Yeah.
And he prefaced that middle one, break me. He said, you damn well better be ready whenever you pray this prayer. Because when you ask God to break you, it's going to come.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that for a second, because I think if we're going to go to the next level, it always demands the breaking of the old. We are metaphorically given this through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, but we don't often correlate it to, well, on each success and victory, or each place that I resurrect to, there is going to require a death and a burial of the old me. Whether that's in addiction to the death of the old man who desires that and wants to do that. That dude had to die. And I see this at each process of each kind of realm that we step up to. It always requires the death of the old, and that comes through the breaking part that you're talking about. It's like, do you want a wild, uncontrollable horse, or do you want one that's broken in, that the master can gently nudge to the direction that it wants to go? And obviously the broken horse is the one that has the ability to be effective. And so this analogy that you brought forth is really key, man. Really key.
Dude, it, like when I prayed for God to take all of that sin out of my life, because I shared it with you before, like addiction, adultery, dishonesty, theft, I mean, everything. And I prayed this prayer at a men's retreat that I wanted him to take it away. And it was a week later that my wife found out I was cheating on her again. And 2 days later, I attempted my overdose. And, you use that language so powerfully that I've started to use around my experience with overdose, and that I truly feel my overdose was successful.
That's a good analogy.
That version of me died that night.
Yeah.
And I was resurrected a new person that next day, because all of those desires I had died with that person that night. And I've been sober ever since.
Yeah.
I've been a faithful man to my husband, or to my wife, my husband.
Yeah.
I've been a faithful man to my wife ever since.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like we know that, like in marriage, like when we get married, the single man has to die. And when we have kids, these are all defining moments to where it's like they're that life before kids is now gone. There's the same thing that happens in business. There's a life before the business and life after business. You can't think like an employee anymore. This is a whole new realm, and all of that has to shed off. And then even as you grow in business, where you start as inside of the business and you're doing a key function, maybe it's some sort of service inside of the business, maybe you're doing the coaching. Well, even the coach has to die when he steps out of that and becomes the person who manages the coach. You can't, every single part of us that goes up requires the death to the old. We can't hang on to these things. And the man that evolves someplace is able to do that in a lot quicker fashion. Hey, is it time to bury me yet? Let's get the shovel, right? Because we know the process, right? So this guy's got to die. Where's the shovel? And so the more willing we are to go through that process, the faster we ascend.
I love that. I love that, man. Well, Tim, I know we're coming up on time here.
Yep.
My brother, I appreciate you taking the time to be on here with me, and I want to give you a few minutes. Is there anything that we've missed that you'd love for our listeners to know? And then finish up with what is the best way to connect with Tim?
Yeah. So one thing that I want you to know, and this is regard to the heart healing aspect, is that life has a tendency to bring these things to the surface. They are brought to the surface by patterns, reoccurring patterns that we see in our life over and over and over again, right? They rise to the surface by triggers, and that is stuff that we're constantly in fear of or constantly angry, and they come maybe areas of limitation, and that is areas of lack and deficiency in your life. These all scream at us that we have something in the heart that needs to be dealt with. So what I would tell you is like, listen to these three because they're screaming at you, and then actually begin to be open and willing, because it's already coming to the surface. Like you feel it. Like this whole thing is a process of bringing to the surface. So if we engage in the process and go, I acknowledge that I got some heart beliefs that I'm holding on to, that they're not congruent with the man who I am to become, and that I would be willing to honestly look at those, ask God to bring them totally to the surface, acknowledge, deal with it, do whatever He tells you to do, whatever it is, so you can move on from that thing and get to the next level. Because we think something exterior is holding us back. Oh man, if I can learn some more time management skills, if I could just get some more marketing, it's like, no, you always hit the ceiling of what you believe yourself to be. You'll go up to that level, and if you hit it, you'll immediately go back to the level of your heart belief. So let's go there, so you can actually begin to rise and not drop back down.
I love that, man. It's that analogy. You'll never outgrow your own self-belief.
Mm-hmm. And you'll always return to the level of your self-perception. Yeah. It's good.
Love that, man. Love that. Tim, how can you help men and how can they connect with you?
Yeah. Men of Influence group on Facebook. I always direct people in a way that we can connect and have a real conversation and like create real engagement. For me, that is the Facebook Men of Influence group. And inside of that group, you will find a lot of successful, ambitious men who are on a journey of healing, wholeness, and becoming the best version of themselves. So that's all I have for you guys, and I think you'll love it there.
Guys, the group will be in the show notes, so you guys can access it there. Tim, again, brother, I appreciate you. I love the mission you're on. So, again, such a cool full circle moment to get together. Shoot, man, it's probably been 8 years since the last time we've done this. So to get back together on this and be able to rock this out was super cool with you.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys, thanks for joining us for another episode. See you next time.